All right, today I'm live, and today I thought I would go ahead and just do a quick brain dump on how to apply AI towards affordable housing. And in the word affordable housing, oh my goodness, it could be applied in so many freaking ways. And I think the best way for me to go even about this process is just break down all the different categories first on how you can apply AI first. And I think for you to even figure out what the categories are, you might even have to figure out what is the problem first that you're trying to solve for. So for me to figure out what that might be, is I figure, okay, well, let me just go ahead and put this all into ChatGPT and kind of outline all the different problems that I think are out there. So maybe I would just go ahead and just start by just doing a big brain dump on ChatGPT and telling you all today what I believe are the problems that we're facing in affordable housing, right? Most namely, some of your biggest problems in affordable housing is there are policy restrictions, right? There are the ability to finance the build out of more supply of housing. If I had to boil it down, right, if you were to increase the amount of supply of housing, naturally that would make everything more affordable. The problem is, well, how do you make everything affordable? Because on the other side of the equation of affordability is also income. And that's a whole another problem that it's not in our scope of solving. I'm not going to be, that's going to be completely out of scope for me. So when you think about affordable housing, okay, well, think about it. For you to build more housing, you need more land. So let's think about this from the very, very beginning of the process. How do you source land to build that project or that housing on? So there's a couple ways that you can get your property for. Now, namely, let's think about this. I think of high leverage types of ways for you to look for sourcing and look for land. Now, in my opinion, there are tons of people already with possession or ownership of land. There are cities, there are counties, there are housing authorities, there are landowners already that might want to build housing. Well, how do you become worthy or how do you help those people identify what to do with that land? I believe it's the dissemination of content, dissemination of information, and the education that you can share with those people so that they become aware of what they can do with that land. So I think content creation and how I would apply AI towards that scenario is how do you create content at a mass scale that continuously identifies those people to help them identify that, hey, I am a landowner and this is how I can use my land towards creation of more affordable housing, right? That's the first use case of how I would apply artificial intelligence towards the mass creation of more content to build more housing. That's one scenario. The second scenario is okay, well, now that I have land or I have found the people with the land, how do I actually figure out what I can build on it? Well, then you need an essentially a AI capability or tool that quickly scans and understand all your zoning regulations, building codes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to figure out what am I able to build on the land with existing regulations. Now, the crazy part is that lacks creativity. So just because and this is the backdrop, right? I have never met a developer that has never not had to change some sort of zoning, that has not been able to get some sort of variance or update to the zoning or regulations. So all these things matter, right? You have to figure out how to apply these different regulations or apply different levels of creativity to figure out how to update those changes or regulations. So that's why when people say like, "Oh, I have this AI tool and this allows me to scan all these things and figure out what I can build here," but it lacks that extra depth of figuring out what else can I do here, right? So you need, if you were to apply AI here, you need to figure out and teach it, well, what are the different scenarios or different creativity angles that I can apply towards this land, such as density bonuses, such as applying different setbacks, such as looking at, well, where are my power lines? Even if I were to apply a 4 foot setback, can I really apply that 4 foot setback if the power line is right there? But there's so many different ways. And sometimes AI might not be there yet. And that's also the realization. The thing is, people think of AI as this big buzzword. I have worked with AI before. I used to work in AI and machine learning in the insurance industry. The best way to think about AI is actually to think of it as an intern, right? An intern, think of AI as an intern that has a PhD education, that has a perfect memory, that will take instruction from you without any sort of pushback, right? You still have to give it guidance, right? You still have to tell it what to research. It will do the next 80% of the work, but when it comes back with to you with that research or with that work product, guess what? You still have to do the last 10% of the work. It's a 10-80-10 framework. You give it guidance in the front, it does the next 80% of the work, but you still have to come back at the last 10% and review that work and give it feedback so it can refine that work. That's AI. I wish people would explain it more clearly at the beginning. And that's how you train that AI to get better. So that's how you need to figure out how to train it better. So we talked about how to source deals. You talked about how to find land. Then you need to teach it how to underwrite deals. There's a ton of people trying to create AI models, AI underwriting models, AI analysis. I mean, it's just really straightforward. You teach it how to figure out, okay, here's my rent, here's my blah, blah, blah. There's tons of people working on that already. So it's just analysis. The problem is, again, with most AI models out there right now, they aren't flexible enough or they're not creative enough where they think outside the box and say, well, if this was an affordable deal, or maybe I can go advocate for an affordable deal. And now all of a sudden, this would have been a 100 unit deal based on existing regulations, but maybe I can make it a 200 unit deal because of my negotiating abilities, right? That's what's lacking in these AI underwriting models because they're not truly AI. They're not thinking outside the box. That's the problem. So don't fall for those AI underwriting traps because usually they're not fancy enough or they're not flexible enough for those outside the box thinking yet. So that's my opinion. So after you get through those underwriting models, then you got to think about, well, how do I finance this? So then we get into the whole world of raising capital. And when it comes to raising capital, there's three main sources of capital. There's donations, there is debt, and there's equity. When it comes to using AI to raise those three different ways of capital, right? I think of AI to raise donations as your ability to create content to tell that story. Now, there's ability to use AI to raise donations from high net worth individuals. These are your $100,000, $1 million checks. And that's your ability to do outreach to those folks and get those warm connections to your ultra high net worth folks that you can make a connection with. But that's not something an AI can do for you. That's a very personal, emotional connection that you make with somebody. Now, can AI can help you identify who might be able to help you make that introduction? Sure, but that's gonna be very, very rare. But that's not to say AI can't help you make content that allows you to create a very large base of $5 monthly donations, just like how you used to see on TV ads where you see those sad puppy commercials where you say, or those sad children commercials where you say, hey, for $5 a month, you can feed a kid 5 children every month, or for $5 a month, you can give a vaccine to 2 kids a month, or something like that, right? That's how you can raise money over and build a very large base. For debt, you can figure out, okay, how do I aggregate all my lending sources across all these different brokers and price out the best sources of debt for all these different brokers, right? Or you just go through a HUD loan, right? There's tons of different brokers for debt. I mean, or you can go through the tax exempt bond route, right? Or you can go through municipal debt. There's so many different ways for you to price debt. Then there's equity, right? How do you find the right investors? And that depends on your ability to create content for you to become worthy of raising that capital. So there's all these different ways for you to raise capital, and AI comes in handy because again, it helps you create content for you to figure out how do you become worthy of that investment. And AI is only going to assist you to use yourself as a megaphone to create the content so that people can understand who you are, why you're worthy of the capital, what your intentions are, and whether or not you actually know what think you're doing. So then let's go into, and again, I'm just doing a big brain dump, right? There's so much more to this, to raising capital. And again, this is not a solicitation for any investments at all. This is not investment advice. Then you get into construction. For construction, this is a whole big wheelhouse. There's so much to this. And I'm just barely hinting at this. I'm just using this as a quick brain dump so we can get organized. There's different ways to build. There's modular, there's prefab, there's stick built, there's the transportation logistics and how you can keep costs down. There's how you build, there's how high you can build, there's labor costs, there's union costs, right? There's whether or not you build at the factory and then ship it there. There's whether or not how dense you can build the house. There's also when do you build, right? Do you start in the summer? Do you start in the winter? There's also how fast can you get the project approved, right? Then that goes back to regulations. How fast can you get the project approved? Because the longer it takes to get approved, then that causes time is money. The longer it takes to get the project approved, that costs more money. Oh, boom. All right. Oh, see. Oh, this is so good. I love it. So this is the first part where I do a breakdown. Interesting. So that's good to know that I can only take about 8 minutes of my voice text before it can't take anymore, before the text box runs out. Interesting. So I'll stop there for today. And what I'll do is I'll pick it up again tomorrow. And tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll talk more about the construction and how we can possibly use AI because that we can talk about construction management. Oh, there's so many different ways you can apply AI towards it. And you know what? Tomorrow, I'm actually going to ask AI about how I would apply AI towards every part of the affordable housing problem. Let's do that. All right. Have a good one, everybody. This is going to be such a great